Cobra just released 4 new drivers, and these drivers have new technology that have never been in a golf club before. This technology is so game-changing, I wouldn't be surprised if every other golf club manufacturer tries to steal this technology. In this video, I'm gonna break down the new drivers and that tech. This is that new game-changing technology. This is called FutureFit 33. If you've owned a driver in the last 15, 20 years, your driver is adjustable. You can change the loft or the lie. Typically, manufacturers allow you to change anywhere from 4 to 16 different options. Now, with Cobra's FutureFit 33, you have 33 different adjustability options. What does that mean? Previously, when you adjusted your driver, you had very minimal options. Now, pretty much the sky's the limit, that you can change this as much as 0.3 degrees flat to really fine-tune your ball flight. So you just get a lot more customizable options out of a driver off the rack. In my testing today, I'm really gonna put that FutureFit 33 to the test to find out if that adjustability really makes a difference on my ball flight. The driver lineup is called DS Adapt. That is still dark speed. The dark speed was a very successful driver lineup for Cobra. They've made some slight improvements and introduced that new FutureFit 33, which is a huge change. The first driver is the DS Adapt Max D. This is for all of you that slice the ball. If you have a horrendous slice, you need some help with your slice, this is a draw bias, meaning that the weighting is set up to help you close the toe, which should straighten out those slices. Last year, the biggest thing in drivers was 10K, 10,000 MOI. This is the DS Adapt Max K 10,000 MOI, the most forgiving driver number that you can get. This is for the mid to high handicap that you want the most forgiving driver possible. It's gonna be this guy. Now we're getting into more other player drivers. This is the DS Adapt X driver. We're starting to bring the spin down on the drivers, meaning the ball's gonna go a little bit further, and it still has a lot of workability. So if you're a pretty good player, a mid to low handicap, you like to work the ball, this would be a good option for you. The last driver in the lineup is the DS Adapt LS, which is their low spin driver. This driver should go the furthest out of all of them. It is their most player driver. The 3 drivers I just talked about are 460 cc's. This guy is 450, so it's a little bit smaller, more compact, should be the lowest spin. Again, should go the furthest, but it might be the hardest to hit. We're gonna find out. Now I have hit each driver already 10 times to get a base collection of data based on the A1 setting, which is neutral, loft, and lie. So the first driver was the Max D. That's their most forgiving draw bias driver. For me, I was favoring a draw side. About 7 of the 10 drives were all on the left side. I was averaging 167 ball speed. My spin was relatively high at 2,900. I was carrying 292 and I was total 316. So the whole purpose of this test to get the baseline is now I'm gonna play with that FutureFit 33 to see if I can tighten my dispersion and get better DATs. So this is gonna be my baseline. The second driver I hit was the Max K driver. Comparing the two, the ball speed went up. I was hitting it lower. The spin was about the same. My carry was almost identical and the total rollout was almost the same. So very close between the two. You can look at the dispersion though, with the Max K being the yellow dots, I had more favoring the right side. Now this next driver is where I started to see big improvements for my game, and that was in the X driver. My ball speed jumped up 4 miles an hour to 173. I was hitting it a little bit lower. The spin came down. I was carrying it about 7 to almost 10 yards further than the other drivers, and it was rolling out another 10 yards. For me, I was noticing big improvements in the X, but again, looking at my dispersion, that's the purple dot, I was favoring the right side big time. So I went from the draw driver favoring the left side to now these non-draw bias drivers, I'm favoring the right side. The last driver I hit was the LS, the low spin model. This one's a little harder to see on the graph. They're the white dots. They're kind of hidden below all the other drivers, but my ball speed came down compared to the X. The spin came way down, which meant there was much more rollout. So in the X, when it was rolling out, it looks like 26 yards. I was getting like 32 yards on average rollout. So I think when I adjust the hosel settings, I want to try to hit this ball higher, but the total yards was actually shorter than the X driver. So in theory, the LS should go the furthest. So again, I'm gonna change the adapter settings to see if I can optimize both the carry distance, the height, and get it close to center. This is gonna be our baseline to see if that FutureFit 33 system really works. So let's start hitting some balls. For all of this testing, I'm using the exact same shaft. This is a stock option that Cobra is offering. This is the Project X Denali at 6g, 6.5 flex. And you can see I'm using a new simulator. Big shout out to our buddy Garrett Jenkinson. He is our local Foresight rep. He lent us a GC quad to give you guys the best possible data. If any of you are interested in any Foresight products, I've linked Garrett's information below. Feel free to contact him, and everyone who watches New 9 Golf gets 6% off all Foresight product, which is pretty cool because Foresight doesn't really ever offer discounts. So the fact that my audience gets one is a really cool win for the channel. So let's say you just picked up one of these drivers, there's now 33 different combinations and you're not really sure how to choose it. What's cool, on the driver, there is a QR code that you can scan and it's gonna pull up the chart for the FutureFit 33 graph. Since my miss with this driver was high and to the left, I look at the chart and I go to the polar opposite I want the ball to do. I want it to go lower and I want it to go to the right. So if my miss on the chart was about a D8, I look at the polar opposite of that, which is an H4. So I'm gonna change this driver setting to an H4 to see if it compensates, gets me a lower ball flight and closer to the center line. Okay, see if we can get closer to that center line just by changing the adapter. This Max D head was the one I was most skeptical of just because it's already set to a draw weight. I'm anticipating the majority of them will still draw, but again, we're just trying to get it closer to that center line. So this is the one I was most curious about just because the head only comes on a draw setting. So far in my first group of hits, I'm still noticing like a really overpronounced draw. I have been hitting a bit of a normal draw. This doesn't feel like a big difference compared to the first setting that I had. I did have one hit so far that was like a nice high baby draw close to the line. I would prefer more of those. This also was in a club that I would play in my bag with it being more of a game improvement driver. So I'm more interested on kind of like the X and the LS. So far, I haven't seen a huge drastic difference just changing the setting. There, I just had to say I haven't seen many big differences and then I hit just a baby cut peeler on the line. Guys, I just want to let you know too that this video is brought to you by Cyberghost.
Safety is key on the golf course and online. And with all the sketchy websites and trackers out there, a good VPN is essential in 2024. And that's why I want to thank today's sponsor, Cyberghost VPN.
Cyberghost VPN secures your internet traffic, hides your IP, and lets you access geo-restricted content with ease. Change your online location in just 3 clicks and access content from over 40 streaming services. It helps you find better deals online, play games blocked in your region, and keeps your identity safe by encrypting your data and browsing history. Cyberghost works on all platforms, and one subscription covers up to 7 devices. They're offering an amazing deal, just $2.03 a month, plus 4 months free. That's 84% off. They also have a 45-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support. Join over 38 million happy users, including myself, and check out Cyberghost VPN in the link in the description of this video. Thanks Cyberghost for sponsoring this video. Looks-wise, I'm a big fan how these new DS Adapt came out. We're sticking with kind of like that matte black finish. The carbon crown looks really good. They've color coordinated each driver. So I think the Max D is red. The Max K, I believe, is silver. And then we have a blue and like an all black. So I think that they still look very visually appealing. Sound-wise, they sound almost identical to the previous Dark Speed lineup. So far, I would say from like a visual and a sound standpoint, I still really like how these look and sound. All right, guys, that's 10 hits. Let's compare the data from the standard setting to then my adjusted setting. Okay, this is really cool. If we look from a ball speed perspective, identical based on my averages. 167.4 for both clubs, so that was super even. I wanted to lower the ball flight, so I got it from 11 degrees to 10, so the flight came down, which is what I wanted. In turn, it brought my spin down. So my spin was 2,900 when I was hitting it high, came down to 2,500, which is super ideal just by bringing that ball flight down. My carry, in turn, went up. My total yardages went up 9 yards from the first time, and if you look at my grid, the blue oval was the first setting of the Max D, just on the A1, which is neutral. Look how much tighter it got just by changing the hosel setting. When I met up with the local Cobra rep when he let me borrow these, big shout out to Rick at Cobra, thanks for letting me borrow these and test them. This is just a standard shaft option, so this isn't even an extra stiff shaft that I've been fit for. I could even improve these numbers more if I was into a fitted shaft. If you go through a full fitting at any facility that does fittings, or if Cobra can fit you directly, they can even tighten that dispersion. Next driver, let's check out the regular 10K, which is the Max K. Now fitting this one is a bit more of a mystery because I had almost as many balls go to the right as I did to the left. How can we tighten this dispersion? For one, this head was also a 10.5 degree, which I would normally play 9, so I want to at least lower the loft, which in turn should help me gain carry, gain total, and bring my spin down. So I think, even though I was pushing the ball left and right, the ones that really got away from me were to the right. So if my miss was to the right, I'm gonna look at the opposite. This one I'm actually gonna fit more on the E side, which is funny because it's like the polar opposite from what we just were. So in this one, I'm gonna go from A1 2, and again, because it's 10.5 degree, even though I was launching it low, I think I was just really hitting down on the driver. I need to just hit up on a bit more. I think subconsciously, because it was a 10.5, I was trying to launch the ball a little bit lower. Now I'll forget about that. I'm gonna bring the loft down and put it more on a draw bias. So I'm gonna go E3. So far, I still have the two-way miss going. Doesn't matter what setting it's been on. It's funny to me, these drivers that have 10K MOI, that last hit that I had felt really not good. I bet you my smash factor was actually quite low. My efficiency was, yeah, only a 139. Still carried 302, rolled out to 334. So from a forgiveness standpoint, it kind of just cracks me up that that drive probably felt the worst so far and was actually the best statistical data that I had. So from a forgiveness standpoint, I would definitely still recommend checking out this Max K. Let's compare these biznatches. Okay guys, I said this was gonna be an interesting test because I wasn't 100% on how I should change the adapter. The hosel setting that I chose was actually worse performing than the A1 that I started with. So if you look at the two, my ball speed actually came down. I was launching it higher and my spin was just about the same. My side angle wasn't great. My carry was less, my total distance was less. So keep in mind, if you're doing a driver fitting, you still have to narrow down which driver head is best for you, which already I would eliminate this for my own personal fitting. And then you gotta find the shaft. After hitting the shaft a bunch of times, I'm still not certain that it's the best shaft for me. It's just the only extra stiff shaft that I have available. So this is for you guys to know that not every setting is gonna be perfect. You have 33 different choices to choose. So if this was the right head shaft combo for me, I would spend much more time dialing in which of the 33 is best for me. The one I'm excited about most is the one we're gonna hit next, which is the X driver. That's the one that I had the best data so far. So why don't we get into that comparison? This hosel selection is gonna be interesting. This reminds me a lot of Harry Potter, how, you know, he was at the wand store and he's picking him. He's like, no, this one's too soft, this one's too hard. That's kind of what we're doing here for these hosel settings. So my first initial collection was a little bit to the right. Now I want to get a little bit more to the left and I could probably get my launch up a little bit. This driver head is a 9 degree. So if I was missing a little bit low to the right, I want to go up and to the left. So I'm going to change this one to a C1 setting, I think is what we're going to start at, and see if that improves based on the A1. So we'll go C1. A cool thing about the tech that I found really interesting is in previous adapter models, as you play around with the loft and the lie, it changes or manipulates the face. In all 33 adjustable options, the face stays square. I don't know how they do that. I'm not a big science guy, but even though you're manipulating the lie angle and the loft, the face always stays square. To me, I found that super interesting. Hello. I would say the biggest variance is because of the shaft.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I find interesting about this one. With the A1 setting that I initially had, I was really happy with all the numbers. It was still the best performing driver test that I had. The only thing I wasn't thrilled with was maybe my launch angle. That's why I wanted to get that up, which I did, but I lost some ball speed. My spin came down, which was good. The carry was the exact same and the total yards was the exact same. What I did find interesting, if I go into my club data, the purple is the A1 setting, which is as center of the club face it gets. I was hitting it higher and a little bit to the toe side with the C1 setting. So you can see in changing the hosel, it is changing where I'm actually hitting the ball. And then on the ball data, you'll see that it is changing some numbers. From this, what I say, do I notice big improvements? It's tough to say. I think the dispersion wasn't as good as it could have been. And I think that's actually more to the shaft. Again, if you don't have the right shaft combo, you're not gonna notice as big of differences. And that's kind of what I'm finding so far using this Denali shaft. It's not one I think I would go with. Again, it's all that I have, but it's cool to see these change. Let's do the last comparison, which is the LS. Let's see if I can get that LS performing as the longest driver out of the 4. This one I want to try to get the ball even more left. So I'm going to actually try to go to the D1, which should be even more drastic than the C1 that we just tried in the X. So I'm just going to try the D1 to see if I can get it further left. I should mention too, the LS has weight combinations too that you can change. The X that I just had a 2-weight system, so you can put a heavy weight at the front or a heavy weight at the back. With the LS, you have a heel weight, a toe weight, and a back weight. So not only do you have the 33 adjustable options, you now have 3 more other options that you can change just in the weighting. The way I have this weight set up is I have the heavy weight in the heel, which should help close that face. And then I have, so that heavy weight is a 10 gram, then I also have 2 3s. So there's a 3 in the back and a 3 on the toe side. Visually, the club does look more compact, even though it's only 10 cc smaller. It does look like a smaller driver. The weight feels different because now there's 3 weights in it. All the head weights just feel totally different. So hitting them back to back to back might take a little bit to get used to, but let's see if I can get this closer to the center line. Hey, we got it left. Okay, good starting point. Like that. Like that. Okay, forgiveness standpoint. This is definitely the least forgiving driver. It is for some of the best players, high club head speed. That exact same swing I made was kind of weak to the toe, flipped it over. When I hit the Max K, the 10K MOI driver, it was one of my best drives. Now with the LS, this so far was my worst drive. So not as forgiving, but the 3 before this were some of the best hits that I felt yet. So if you kind of need to weigh the pros and cons. How consistent are you with your driver? If you're hitting 9 out of 10 really good, this would be a really good option. If you're hitting 4, 5, 6 out of 10 really good, even a few lower than that, you might want to go to something more forgiving like the Max K. Okay guys, comparing the LS model to the different hosel settings, I did improve on some data. So my ball speed went up, my launch went up, which is exactly what we were looking for. My spin stayed the exact same, my carry went up, and my total distance went up. The only sacrifice now that I have is my dispersion is not as good as it once was. So when I did the A1, the white circle was my original dispersion, and now I have a larger dispersion. So I wanted to hit the ball more left, which I did, and that's why I think the graph is much bigger, as I had many more balls go left, but that was exactly what I wanted. So again, I can play around with the shaft option to narrow that dispersion, but I think I found a pretty optimal hosel setting to get really good club data, what I was looking for. And then if I do go to the club data, you can see I was hitting the club face almost the exact same side. So I find with the FutureFit 33, there's so many options, right? I could make an entire hour-long video on just one head with all 33 options, and then we can narrow it down. For this test, I just wanted to see if I do change those, can I A, improve from where I started, and B, at least give me some options on improving that club data. So I would say that we did prove that FutureFit 33 is going to help optimize your ball flight. Based on all the drivers that I hit today, I hit all 4. The 2 that were best for me were the X and the LS. If I were to dial in one driver, I'm leaning towards the X. And I think the best session I actually had was the X with the A1, which was the neutral standard setting. And if you fit into neutral standard, good on you. Like, there's just 1 out of the 33 options that it's gonna be. So that for me was actually quite optimal. I would then start playing around with the shafts. So we'll see if the shaft makes a big difference. We'll see how much variance we'll get with any more hosel settings. But for me, I think that's the one I'm gonna dial in when I start testing the best drivers of the year. The way that I did this testing was kind of backwards how I would normally do it. I would normally dial in the head, then the shaft, then the adapter setting. Because the adapter was the newest tech, I really wanted to dive into that. And I only had one shaft option, so I was kind of handcuffed for what shaft I could use. Price point comes in at $750 Canadian, so that is still one of the most affordable drivers on the market. And I haven't shown you this head cover yet, but you do get a pretty nice looking head cover. This looks like a $100 head cover. Overall, I am super happy with the Cobra lineup. It's gonna be interesting to see how this compares to the other new drivers coming out. If you haven't already, make sure you smash subscribe so you can see my future test.
And I want to thank today's sponsor, Cyberghost VPN.
Don't miss their special offer with 84% off and a 45-day money-back guarantee. Protect your data and access all block content for just $2.03 a month. Click the link in the video description to find out more.
Thanks again for watching this video. We'll check in with you guys next time.